Elio is the newest film by Pixar, giving us a take on the sci-fi drama that hasn't been done in a while. Sci-fi these days is the classic "in space no one can hear you scream," filled with horrors of killer aliens, dark corridors, and the cold atmosphere that is space. Or in my case, crapping my pants every time I enter a new part of the ship in dead space.
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.
Elio is about a boy who feels lost in his own world, dreaming of being abducted by aliens and finding his place in the universe. Along the way, he makes a worm-like friend called Gordon, throw in a little bit of diplomatic sort of sci-fi-ness, and there we have our movie. So let's dive into our spaceships and set course, grab your box of tissues for Pixar's newest film, Elio. Let's get the simple stuff out of the way. Like most Pixar films, the animation is obviously great. I do think we have come to a point where Pixar films feel odd when they're not doing something a little bit abstract. You know, what if toys were real? What about the monsters in your closet? Are they just going to work? What does the inside of your head look like? Elio is pretty standard given how it's just about a regular kid who wants to be abducted by aliens.
Right.
While the sci-fi aspect is of course larger than life, the idea of it isn't exactly new to us.
Something very familiar about all this.
The cast of the film all do an incredible job. Both voice actors for Elio and Gordon for their age give us a wonderful performance with great voices. Also, Brad Garrett is back, which is always a wonderful sight as he has worked on several Pixar movies, and that voice is just... oh, such a treat. Elio starts out as your usual Pixar movie, setting up the premise of what the film is about, but right from the very opening you feel the weight of this movie of what happened to Elio's parents. There's no bad exposition where we're told details about Elio and what happened to him, and I love how the film is paced. You're learning more about Elio and his relationship with his aunt as you go, and it never felt slow or tedious. Despite the film not having any quote-unquote action, the film never feels slow or makes you look at your watch. At 98 minutes long, its runtime is really nice and I didn't feel like anything was missing or could be extended. Elio's plot is pretty by the numbers by Pixar. It's not doing anything new and exciting by today's standard, but everything it does well. As I mentioned, sci-fi these days tends to go into a very dramatic and horror aspect, which to be fair isn't a bad thing as sci-fi horror is among one of my favourite genres. But the film feels closer to the sci-fi movies of the 80s and 90s, films like E.T., Flight of the Navigator and Titan A.E. But while its story is pretty standard, its themes go far above and beyond and use space as a theme for loneliness. Elio's themes of loneliness and being an outcast is what sell the film and easily is the film's strongest aspect. Elio's loneliness is captured on the screen in a wonderful way, not just because of how Elio feels, but also how it affects the world around him. His aunt is just trying to be the best parent she can be, and she panics about getting Elio to make friends and perhaps appear more normal. But I love how they paint Elio as this outcast. He doesn't fit in, he isn't like everyone else, and while he does learn to be okay with his life on Earth by the end of the story is about him finding his place in the universe. For any child who is worried about being different, and for any parent that worries about their child being different, this story tells us that it is okay. That if you don't have many friends, if any at all, then your child would find his group on his own time, and to nurture their passions no matter how weird or odd they appear to be.
I mean, you're really weird!
Despite the film feeling a little bit more light-hearted at times, it was never afraid to get truly serious and mature when it needed to. Whether it's his relationship with his aunt or his relationship with Gordon. The dialogue feels very real, and despite being in space, it feels very down to earth. That is the best joke in this entire video. But using literal space as a theme for loneliness is once again such a great idea, and anyone who's gone through this type of feeling, it will definitely hit you right in the feels. As someone who has gone through something like this myself, this message is truly special to me and I absolutely adored it. Speaking of being lonely, most of my views come from people who aren't subscribed, so if you are enjoying this video, why not consider subscribing? It really helps me out. I am so close to 2,000 subscribers and most of my views do come from non-subscribers, so what's going on there? If you like animated movies, then my channel is the best place for you. Anyway, back to the video. Elio doesn't necessarily have any massive issues. I could argue it's all objectively good, but maybe that's part of the problem. Its plot is good, the music is fantastic, but it all feels very safe. The film is at its strongest when it's hitting hard on those beautiful themes. But for a Pixar movie, the film doesn't have a massive amount of comedy. If you've seen the trailer, then you've heard all the jokes. This film is perhaps the biggest Pixar film that is heavily aimed at kids. And while adults will still 100% enjoy this film, compared to that of other Pixar movies, it's not hitting the mark for adults like it is for others. But even in the trailers, it is clearly going for a film that is aimed way more for kids, which, as I mentioned, is absolutely fine. It doesn't help that this is opening the same week as 28 Years Later, whereby I think adults will prefer to tune in more for that film, and they'll just wait for this film to come out on Disney+. The film's marketing was also bar none. Nobody really knew about this movie. While I have been seeing trailers, the average person doesn't know anything about this film. I didn't start seeing adverts and posters until only a few weeks ago, and I just feel like people are going to forget this movie even existed. Much like Pixar's previous movie Elemental, the film did awful on its weekend, but it did great overseas. I think this film will probably and hopefully do the same, because the film isn't bad. I think a lot of critics are going to say this film isn't worth seeing in movie theaters because it will obviously eventually come to Disney+. But considering how this is a brand new original film from Pixar and not a sequel or a remake, then please, go support this movie because we need more original content and Pixar are definitely the best for it.
Do it!
While its themes for me are absolutely incredible, I don't think some people will understand this movie like I do. The way it treats this idea of being different and feeling lonely is so specific, which is actually why I love it. But I feel like if you don't know what this feeling is, then this film is going to fly over you. I'm not saying you need to be a lonely person to like it, but it certainly makes you appreciate it a whole lot more.
I'm Mr. Lonely.
While Elio isn't up there with Pixar films like Up, Inside Out, or even some of the Toy Story films, everything it does well. Its story is played so incredibly safe compared to its themes, which are so daring and specific. I think some kids could even be potentially put off by this movie because this film isn't for some people. If you haven't gone through this level of deep loneliness, then I can't see how people understand this movie the way I did. As I mentioned, the film really lacks a lot of comedy, which I'm not saying every film needs to be funny, but Inside Out 2 had plenty of laughs and they combine that with such a serious message. Some kids will struggle to follow without the humor, and if you don't understand the themes, then it all feels very safe. Where the film shines is that beautiful message of feeling lonely and feeling that you don't belong. Kinda reminds me of another film I love. For a lot of people, this could be someone's favorite, but for others, it would just feel like another run-of-the-mill sci-fi animated movie. But if you understand this film, it really goes above and beyond to tell a meaningful story about being different, being lonely, and how kids grow up with it. But for those that understand this movie, we will happily sit quietly in the corner and talk about it for days on end. Just like the film says, being unique can sometimes make you feel like you're alone, but that doesn't mean you are. So after all that, it's getting my professional rating of 7 out of 10, and my personal rating of 8 out of 10. So thank you for joining me in this video. Let me know in the comment section what you thought of this movie, because I really think this is going to divide audiences, which is a really great film for me to review because I love it when films are made for specific people and how something very specific can really make or break someone. This film really was made for someone like me. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel to see more animated reviews just like this one. Subscribing really helps me do more videos. Make sure to join me over on my Discord group where you can talk to me more personally and you can even suggest future videos. But thank you as always for watching, and I will see you all in the next one.